How many times have you heard this passage used to negate the teachings of the Apostle Paul? Oftentimes, many groups will take this passage and use it against the other areas of Paul's teaching in the Bible to try to negate it. Let's see what the Bible has to say about this passage today. Oftentimes we hear this verse used by people that want to question the teachings of the Apostle Paul. They say, look at this verse, the writings of the Apostle Paul, they're hard to understand, so you need to listen to what we have to say. You need to listen to our teachings. Don't try to understand the teachings of the Apostle Paul. Don't try to make sense of the Bible and its context. Listen to our teaching. And they go to this verse, 2 Peter 3:16, which says, as also in all of his epistles, speaking in them of these things, in which some things are hard to be understood, which they that are unlearned and unstable wrest, as they do also the other scriptures unto their own destruction. So a lot of groups use this to discount common teachings and context of the Bible of what Apostle Paul is saying and substitute their own teaching. They're saying, look, you're listening to people that are unlearned and unstable. You should listen to us. But is this exactly what this passage is talking about? Is it discounting all of Paul's teachings? Well, all we have to do is look at the context to see what this chapter is about. Just go back a few verses, up to verse 9. In verse 10, we see here it says, the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night, in which the heavens shall pass away with great noise, elements shall melt with a fervent heat, the earth also and all the works that are therein shall be burned up. Day of the Lord is mentioned. Again, verse 12, looking for the hastening and coming of the day of the Lord. So they're talking about the day of the Lord, the return of Christ. So when we get down here and we read this verse, and also in all of his epistles, speaking in them of these things referring back to the day of the Lord, the reference to return of Christ, in which some things are hard to be understood. Okay, usually understanding about the events and how the return of the Lord is going to be taking place is hard to understand. And that's what he's referring here also. He's referring to the return of Christ in these passages that are difficult. He's not throwing a shadow on all of Paul's teachings and saying that they're all hard to be understood. He's just referring to these specific ones. So when you hear people talking about this reference, look at the context and start to ask yourself questions. What is their motive? Why do they want you to question the Apostle Paul? Why do they want you to listen to them? Are they going against the scriptures? Do they read the entire context? What's the ulterior motive? So consider that whenever you hear people use this verse to question the Apostle Paul.